Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a psycho Karen broke into my house just to use my jacuzzi. She claims that she has permission from God. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, Neighbors Scratched My Car. Hey everyone, I have a 2014 Ford Fiesta Titanium. Unfortunately, only one car can fit in my garage, so my Fiesta has to sleep on the street. It's a quiet area in Vicente Lopez, a nice neighborhood away from any major avenues. About 2 weeks ago, I noticed a scratch on the hood, but I thought it could have been a stone on the highway, a branch, a cat, or simply one of the 45 million Argentines who had nothing better to do than scratch my car. Then I saw another one on the right door, the one facing the curb. Clearly, it was intentional, but I didn't know if it was at work, at my girlfriend's house, or in my own block. I took some time off work and left the car in the same spot for 48 hours. When I came back, there were 3 more scratches. It was indeed in front of my house. And actually, it's a super quiet block, there's plenty of space to park on the whole block, and there are usually only 4 cars, one of them being mine. The other day, my dad parked his car outside and it was also scratched. We don't fight with anyone, we greet everyone and the whole block knows us. But there's some bloody idiot who likes to destroy other people's efforts. The best idea I had to catch the culprit is to leave both cars on the street. Use an old cell phone connected to a power bank and record it all night from the Fiesta, which is tinted. I think I can hide it well enough so it won't be visible. I wanted to share my frustration with you and ask you what your favorite medieval torture is to punish the person if I catch him. Has anyone experienced something similar? What do you recommend I do to try to catch him in the act or have some proof? In the event that it succeeds, what do you think I would have to do? And yeah, Ripestars, what would you recommend OP to do in this situation? You know, I actually remember basically around 20 years ago or even longer, when I still was in elementary school, there was a case that for some reason, cars that were parked near the school always got their tires scratched or sliced open or whatever. Some had it worse than others, but there were some cars that actually had a flat tire afterwards. In the end, it turned out that some 4th grade students did this in their free time. Talk about bad parenting. Anyway, now let's read the update to the story. Almost a month ago, I posted in this community telling you about how my car was getting scratched in front of my house. The mystery has been solved. Even though I tried to set up cameras to catch the culprit myself, the definitive answer came from a different source. A few days ago, I was walking my dog at night and I met an elderly lady around 80 years old who is a neighbor in the area. I always let her chat with me because I'm 23 years old and I'm not really interested in what an elderly lady has to say unless she's my grandma. As I mentioned before, I have a good relationship with my neighbors and I always take time to chat with everyone. Also, I like older people, so I've no problem taking a few minutes to talk. The lady asked me what happened to my car as she hadn't seen it for a while. I told her it was getting scratched and that I had started parking it around the corner. She responded, "I know who's doing it." At first I doubted her and didn't understand how she knew. It turned out that she's a gossip, but not like the typical gossip who watches from the window. She does it from the comfort of her living room with her fan, kettle and mate. She has cameras facing the street and watches them for hours. A 21st century gossip. The fact is that her husband was also affected. He has an impeccable Fiat 147 that's only fit for connoisseurs and someone broke the side mirror. The lady told her husband that she saw someone scratching the cars on the cameras. Her husband reviewed the footage and found out who broke the mirror and filed a complaint. All of this happened last week. The culprit was the son of a, lady of the night squad. Editor's note, Argentine Spanish is very colorful in terms of cursing, street sweeper. He passed by every morning just before starting work and on the way he broke people's car mirrors. I was going crazy because I didn't understand how it was happening. I parked my car at 11 PM and found it scratched at 8 AM. It was this miserable, resentful guy who passed by just before me, but not early enough for the lady to not be watching the cameras from her living room. However, the story has a partly happy ending. The guy was fired from his job and it's more than proven that he is a son of a gun. But I never got to confront him or ask for compensation. I had hoped to catch someone who could take responsibility for the damage, but I will have to live with the scratches and eventually sell the car for a lower price than others because a social misfit decided to mess with someone else's property. There's not much more to say. I will just try to improve the Fiesta's appearance so it can return to something similar to its original beauty. The lesson of this is that I'm a little more discriminating than yesterday and a little less than tomorrow. And yeah, Ripestars, I gotta say, I don't really understand why OP could not get this guy charged for what he did. I mean, maybe charges and the police and everything works different in Argentina, but this is clearly destruction of property, and this guy should face some consequences other than just losing his job. Maybe I misunderstood something here, but that really doesn't seem fair. Anyway, let's move on to the title story, which is titled Karen breaks into my house to use my jacuzzi and claims that she has permission from God to do it. I live in a pretty nice area, and one of the perks I enjoy from that is the fact that I have a jacuzzi in my backyard. I also have a locked gate to get back there from outside that also loops into a fence. Finally, I have some security cameras set up. It might sound excessive, but you can never be too careful in a nice area when theft can and does exist. My issues stemmed not from a random person wanting to steal from me, but instead a woman that lived 3 doors down. I never had any big issues with her or really anybody on the block, but she was known to be a bit of a Karen and think that she was entitled to whatever she wanted. I guess to her the idea of private property meant nothing. I was at work, and when I got back and went into my kitchen, I noticed from the window that Karen was sitting in my jacuzzi, just relaxing. She had a book and even a snack on the edge like it was her house or some kind of fancy hotel. It scared the crap out of me to look into my own backyard and just see an entire person there. I'm glad I don't have a heart problem or something. So of course I go outside to confront Karen, knowing full well how I need to handle this. If I get too aggressive, it could end with her doing something crazy or destructive. Not firm enough, and I can give her the wrong idea that she can walk all over me. Me, I need you to leave my yard. Karen, I have the right to enjoy myself if I want to. Me, you can enjoy yourself, but not with my things on my property. In fact, how did you even get into my yard? The door is locked. Karen, locks are easy to break. There's no your things anyway. All of it belongs to God, and he said that I deserved something nice and I could use it. Me, okay, well, it's mine, and I'm telling you that it's time to leave or I need to call the police. Karen, I don't answer to the police. I told you that God told me I could use it. I called the police on her and also decided to start recording on my phone after, just in case she decided to start going even more nuts. She did not actually do anything but remain in the jacuzzi reading her book until the police showed up. They asked her to get out and only agreed when they said that they needed to take a statement. Not even realizing that she might be the one in trouble. Meanwhile, I was busy telling them everything that happened on my end and that I didn't give her permission to use my jacuzzi. Proof being that she broke the lock in order to even gain access to my property. And by the way, Ripestars, does anyone feel like that jacuzzis and pools are one of the biggest Karen magnets? It seems to be a real security concern to have this stuff on your property in case you don't have a proper fence or something. You might need a few more security cameras in case you get a pool or jacuzzi to keep yourself safe from Karens. Anyway, she still refused to leave even after the police basically ordered her to go back to her house. Apparently, she really did think that listening to their orders was optional. I think they were just trying to de-escalate the situation and avoid an arrest. Which, honestly, if she had gone home even after police told her, I would have been okay to not press charges, aside from maybe getting her to pay for a new lock for my property. Since she was refusing to leave and shouting verbal abuse towards me right in front of the police, they did not have a choice. As they tried to arrest her, she threw 2 patio chairs and tried with no success to pick up a patio umbrella and start using it as a weapon. But thankfully it was too heavy for her. She was arrested for trespassing, damage to property, and aggravated assault. I tried to just keep my cool through the entire thing, even at the start when Karen was trying to pretend that she had a right to be there. I found out way later that part of her statement to the police when I was busy talking to the officers was very different from her "God said I could do it" story. She was trying to claim it was a community jacuzzi and I was targeting only her because she did not have as much money as I did. I feel the need to just avoid confusion here based on her earlier statements and how she was acting. When she was arrested, they did a drug test on Karen and found that she was totally clean. She was not drunk or high or anything like that, and her comments about God were not related to some kind of mental illness episode. She just really thought that she could do anything she wanted and claim religion as an excuse. She also didn't have anything to use for a defense if she wanted to take this to court. Even if she could have gotten my personal security camera footage thrown out there, there was nothing she could do about the police body cameras. My state has mandatory body cams when police respond to a call, and that was clear how she was throwing things and wanted to try and be violent about it all. Plus, what she said on camera matched the police statement they took. Avoiding her saying what was in writing was not correct to try and salvage something. The last thing I didn't mention is one thing Karen kept yelling about while she was being arrested was that they couldn't arrest her because her husband worked for the courts. Which, while true, he was in a minor role, and unless there is a lot of corruption going on, things are still illegal no matter who you are married to. Karen decided not to take this to court, knowing that she was gonna get totally screwed over by the mountain of evidence against her and nothing for her. Instead, she took a deal that would keep her crazy ass out of prison. For one, she had to pay for the damage she caused me, as well as issue me a formal apology in writing. Second, I was getting an order of protection against Karen, meaning she could not come near me at all. The final thing she had to do was make a formal announcement to the neighborhood about what she did and that she was sorry for it. Everybody knew what happened and nobody wanted to associate with her in fear that she would take it as an open invitation to their property. Despite not going to jail, she didn't just get off with no legal consequences. She was under probation, or at least something like it if I'm using the term wrong. She was not allowed to get in any trouble with the police, or she could be sent to prison for the past crimes. So if she did the exact same thing, I guess she would get punished double. Personally, I'm just happy that she knows now that the world does not revolve around her. She is not immune to the way the world works and can have what she wants when she wants it. A lesson I learned when I was 6, but she must have just never gotten the memo on that. Either way, I'm satisfied with how things turned out and have not heard a peep from Karen in the last 8 months. I can just enjoy my jacuzzi and relax without fear of finding a Karen soaking in it too. And the next one is titled, "Was I an a-hole to my neighbor or not?" And if you have watched until here, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. This one starts like this. So I, female 26, recently bought a house with my husband. Our house is a beachfront house with an amazing yard. The backyard is designed to basically look like a hidden oasis. It has a pool, hot tub, water fountains on the side and a small slide, all surrounded by trees and other plants. The trees give us privacy from both houses next to us, but still gives us the view of the beach. The backyard is why we bought the home, and we already spent the majority of our time being back there, even when my husband works. The entire backside of the house is mostly glass, so it's also what we see when we are in the house. It's definitely the focal point of our home. Yesterday we started the construction on a new fence. This fence goes around the backyard with a gate only to the beach, so you either have to go through the house to go through the beach to get to our backyard. We did not think anything of it before I got a knock on my door this morning from someone who lives in the condos across the street from us. I've seen her a few times, but we never really talked. She introduced herself and then asked about what we were building in our yard. I just told her that we wanted to put up a fence before tourists start coming. This was recommended to us by our realtor. Marie kind of looked shocked and asked if we were putting a gate on the front or anything. I said no, and that we already had a landscaper come and look to get more plants put around it. She then asked me if I could put a gate on the front. I didn't really understand this, so I asked her to clarify when she explained that the previous owners would let people from the condo walk through their yard to get to the beach, because otherwise they have to walk 5 minutes down the street to get onto the beach, where there are a lot of tourists. Our street leads to a private beach, so there isn't as many people. She said that mostly everyone in the condo started doing this over the past few years, especially people with kids or even just letting their kids go to the beach alone. She also said that they would let people use their pool if they texted as asked. I immediately told her that no one would be in my yard unless I knew them. She obviously got upset by this and then said that basically everyone in the condos would be upset by this. I told her that I understand why they want to use my yard and that it's just to pass through, but I hate the idea of being in my backyard and having random people walk through. She started getting mad at me for it and saying that I'm ruining a lot of people's way of life by blocking off this path. She claimed that a lot of people let their kids during the summer go to the beach through this way, and a lot of kids cannot walk to the popular spots. The beach is kind of quiet where we are. I did get annoyed and told her that I don't really care and that I will not let people into my yard. She tried to bring up the pool, but I just told her that I wasn't gonna talk about it anymore. This was yesterday afternoon and I've already seen people standing outside the condos and pointing to my house. I even had someone run over to talk to me and ask if I was really gating off the beach path. I've talked to both my neighbors who agree with me, but my friend and sister are both saying that I am in the wrong. So, am I the a-hole? Someone on Reddit said, I'm a bit confused. Do these condo owners have access to this private beach? If so, it's on their landowner and manager to provide that. If not, then they really have no argument regardless. Either way, easy NTA, private property is private property, plain and simple. OP said, it's not technically a private beach. There just isn't a public entrance unless they walk down the street. And by the way, Ripestories, let me know what you think about this story in the comments. Is OP the a-hole here for not providing these people access, or not wanting to at least? Or not? Let me know what you think in the comments. Another person on Reddit said, not the a-hole, if anything happens to these people on your property, you are liable for it. Who cares what happened in the past? The previous owners are not the owners anymore, you are. Like the saying goes, your house, your rules. You also don't want people littering or destroying your yard. They have to walk 5 minutes. Oh, boo-hoo! Your friend and your sister don't own your property. Another person said, what exactly did your friend and sister say which would make you in the wrong? If this ain't bait. And then OP said, my sister feels like it's a rich person issue and that they are not hurting anyone. My friend feels like anyone should have access to the beach and it's rude to make parents with kids walk down during the summer. And now we have an update to the story and it reads like this. I just wanted to start by thanking everyone for their suggestions. I did want to cover a few things. I do have a fence around my pool area, this is just to protect my yard. Secondly, we have indoor and outdoor cameras all around our house. Some are visible and some are hidden. We do already have a sign up that says that we are recording. The fence will also be finished by tomorrow afternoon, so it shouldn't be too long for us to have it up. I also called our local police and they said that they did not have a right to use private property to access the beach, so everything is clear for me to move forward with. The previous owners had the house for 10 years and only let people use it for the past 3 years, so it's not long enough for any legal action to force me to give up my yard per our lawyer. I called my realtor this morning and the owners called me after she talked to them and said a lot about the situation. They told me that they only used the house as a vacation home and so they did let people cross during the summer, but when they were there, they put up a sign telling people to not use the path. They said that they didn't let people do it at first, but when they were not home, people did it anyways. They also allowed certain people to use their pool only when they were in it themselves. It was never a free-for-all pool and they even put the cover on it before leaving. The previous owners did also say that it was smart to put up a fence and recommended calling the condo manager. When I did call the condo manager, they asked if we could find a middle ground because they know that a lot of residents use my yard and kind of made it sound like they told residents that they could use this path. My neighbor thinks that they used it as a selling point because there were times where they would point towards our house, specifically while people were looking at condos. Either way, my husband is having our lawyer send the condo a letter stating that no residents are allowed in our yard for any reason so that we have legal writing with them. So basically people have used our yard in the past, but my husband and I are not allowing it anymore. I get them using it if we had it as a vacation home, but we are living in it year round, so yeah. A lot of my neighbors who live in the houses have messaged me and said that they are really happy that I'm cutting off the path, so I feel like it's the right move. And by the way, Ripestories, sorry for that monsoon rain that started outside. I cannot do much about it. Anyway, the rain is very much welcome, trust me. Either way, I've already put up no trespassing and no beach access signs and had permanent ones for the front of our yard and on the fences. I also am putting up a privacy fence in the front and adding trees right in front of it, so it's harder for people to jump it. We are also connecting our gate right to our neighbors so that there's not a spot on the side that we can try and squeeze through. Either way, I'm gonna cut off the path and I kinda don't care if they hate me for it. Thank you to everyone for your suggestions. And yeah, Ripestories, props to OP for staying tough and not giving in to these entitled people. Honestly, private property is private property. You should not be forced by anyone to let them cross your private property just because they feel like it or because it was like this in the past. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I own a farm in an area that used to basically be run by us. Farmers as far as you could see, and the only issues were just internal ones between some of us fighting due to competition like plenty of people in the same business do. The pandemic really hurt the farming industry, and I was one of the few farmers able to stay afloat and keep my barn doors open. Rich people flocked to buy the land cheap and built themselves big mansions where farms used to be. Next to me went up a huge one, and ever since the person moved in, I had been having problems with that guy. He seemed offended that a farm was next to him, even though he knew this when he bought the damn house in the first place. It was not some random surprise, he even came up to me only a few days after moving in to complain. "Neighbor, you need to do something about that horrible smell." Me, "Can you be a little bit more specific?" "Neighbor, those horrible animals. I want to open my windows in the morning and enjoy the world, but instead I'm met with the sounds and smells of those farm animals." Me, "I mean, what do you want me to do about it? They are animals after all, and they are gonna smell and sound as such." Neighbor, "Well, get rid of them of course. We have an HOA now, and there's no way this is allowed under it." Well, I'm not part of any HOA, but the neighbor does not care and continues to threaten me that he is on the new board and will make sure my animals get banned. From then, he complained about something every other day, and it was always something different. He did not like that I needed to water my crops because the sprinklers bothered him, he did not want me using farming equipment because it was too loud, etc. Always using the HOA and that he was on the board as an excuse. I was not changing a damn thing, I was here first after all. One day when he was talking, I did get the real reason of why he was doing all of this. He started talking about how my farm looked ugly and it was gonna lower the property value of the area. It was all a power play to try and get me out and more mansions in. Not gonna happen because I can handle a lot of crap and hold my own in that kind of situation. About 2 months after he moved in, I left to go on my overdue honeymoon. We had to wait until the pandemic calmed down because we got married right before. I needed a break from work and my neighbor anyway, so it was fantastic to go on a trip and not even look at our phones the entire time until we got back. Outside of the honeymoon bubble, I had about 100 missed calls from the workers running my farm for me while I was away. Listening to them, I found out that the HOA, or more specifically my HOA neighbor, hired a company to demolish my farm and nothing they could say was able to stop them from doing it. I was horrified, and when I saw the farm, I knew that they had gone too far. Everything was gone, from my house to barn structures to the crops growing. I am shocked that they did not salt the earth so nothing else could ever grow. Honestly, they seemed sadistic enough to do that. Well, I was not gonna stand by and let this happen, so I got a lawyer and wanted to go after my neighbor and make him pay. It turned out going after the HOA board was the way to go, but since he was on it, he would still end up paying for what he did. The only thing they had to justify what they did were documents stating that they had bought the land from me before I left and they owned it supposedly. Well, there were a few big issues in this story that they tried to play off as all just being a little too convenient. The first of which being, if they bought it, where the hell was the money? I clearly didn't have it. They claimed I must have spent it all on my honeymoon or opened a bank in a foreign country to hide it. However, there was no proof of them spending the money either. The other thing, and this one was kind of big, was the dates on their paperwork did not match right. I was already on a plane and out of the country when they claimed that I signed the deal. My lawyer was doing a great job, and despite me not being able to have a suit as expensive as the HOA guys, I sure as hell had a better lawyer. They were found guilty of destroying my land and faking the documents to get it destroyed, aka forgery. They were going to need to pay me a ton of money so I could rebuild my farm back up. From the forgery, a couple of the HOA board members were actually facing time in prison. It does not end there though, because I need to talk about the company they used to demolish my land. I don't want to say too much, but I will say that they are not the most savory group of people and for sure are in some other activity involved as well. Very shady and not the kind of people you want to owe money to if you want to keep all your limbs intact. As you can imagine, the last thing they wanted was a court case with one of their company's name getting attached to it. The HOA board members that didn't go to prison were scared crapless, and I did notice a few odd cars parked outside my neighbor's house for unusual amounts of time. Now my neighbor was not one of the few to go to prison and instead had to deal with the entire mess while also being watched by these weird guys. The HOA was broke from having to pay me because if you don't know farming, it's an expensive industry and rebuilding a farm meant I got a huge amount of money. The HOA actually had to shut down because the money just did not exist and the members were pissed how much they put in, and now it was all gone because the HOA board did something stupid. So they ended up shutting down as one way to try and mitigate the situation. Despite not living in that mansion long, my neighbor ended up moving away, and a part of me thinks it was related to that car parked outside his house. I don't even know if they fully paid off that demolition company, but owing guys like that money was extra dangerous. No matter the reason, I was glad that he was gone and I could start rebuilding my farm. It's still a work in progress, but I'm glad the HOA is gone, and the guy who moved in after him does not have any issues living next to a farm, and he has much more respect. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripestories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.